Hello and welcome to the video. There is a new charger from ToolkitRC that has just been released, and I thought I'd get one in just to have a look at. Now, I've been looking at ToolkitKit for quite a long time. I have a lot of their little gadgets that are used for all kinds of things, and they live on my bench. They're incredibly useful. And I've been making chargers for a while too, and personally I've had a really good experience with them, although whenever I do a review there's always a few people out there that have had a trickier time. I'm at the point now where for ToolkitRC chargers I'm actually comfortable enough to use them in my own personal day-to-day flying, and in fact my 4-port charger now is actually from ToolkitRC. So it's fun to see a new charger from them. This one has a single output, supports 8S, both AC and DC, very similar to the Q6AC that I looked at recently. This one has 8S capability, and for lots of pilots who really get into very fast quads or much larger planes, being able to charge 8S is an important thing, and the fact that it has AC and DC at the back means that you can have it on the bench behind you and use it to charge batteries, but crucially put it in the bag when you go to the field and run it off some kind of DC power supply there and top everything up as you're enjoying your flying day and keeping going. Now, this new charger has the same kind of tricks up its sleeve that the Q6AC had, its slightly little brother, in that it'll do a lot of additional things like resistance checking, signal generation, signal measurement, ESC tester, and bench power supply too. So a lot of those little boxes that I've got here are actually built into this. So if you haven't got that kind of stuff, these things are just handy to have on the bench so that you can use those kind of features, particularly things like the signal checker is incredibly handy to have. When something isn't working, it's great to be able to plug it in and just make sure that the signals coming out of it are the ones that you expect. So the specs on this, while I unbox it, this again is dual input. AC is going to give you a 200 watt charging, DC is going to give you a chunky 600 watt charging, maximum of 20 amps, and it's going to support from 1 to 8S, and it's got all of the usual LiPo stuff as well as nickel metal hydride, lead acid, and also UAV batteries too. I'll show you the interface in a minute. 1 amp balanced current, which is great. That's going to dramatically reduce the time the unbalanced battery spends in that mode. 65 watt fast charging for laptop and mobile devices. Multi-tools in here, the adjustable power supply from 1 to 35 volts. Measurement of resistance and signals, be able to generate signals, ESC tester and a DJI battery charger as well, and this one features the kind of standard 2.5-inch IPS LCD display. Estimated price point for this is going to be around the $95, €95 mark. So let me give you a whistle-stop tour of all of the features. Again, this is the version 1 of the firmware on this. I'm sure that things will change as we go through. One of the things I hope they add is the ability to discharge a battery back into the DC power supply if you're running it from a battery. I like that kind of external discharge option. So I'm running this at the moment for the demo off a 4S lithium ion pack, one of the things I take to the field to top up batteries. Let's go through the menu. Press and holding the key on the left hand side will get you into the auxiliary menu. This has things like the ability to measure resistance. Going down, you can also measure signal. That will give you the ability for PWM, PPM and S-bus. Those are the three. I would like to start to see these kind of things coming out with CRSF measurement abilities as well. That's very handy as things like Express LRS is becoming more and more common. Then we've got a signal output. We can generate a signal out of this for PWM, PPM and S-bus as before. Again, those are the three different things. Clicking the button and then scrolling around will actually let you set what the value is that you want to go out. This is incredibly handy for doing things like calibrating ESCs if you don't want to go through some of the rigmarole with flight controllers, or you just want to test it. ESC test. This is one of the standard things. I've got like a watt meter from ToolkitRC that I use for this. This is very handy, allows you to kind of set the power level, see both the voltage and the current that it's pulling. Handy if you want to put like a different prop on a motor, lock it down in a vise or something and run it up and see how it performs and what the differences are. You can actually get the numbers from here. Very handy to have. And that leads me nicely then onto power, which is essentially a benchtop power supply. Now I actually have a Toolkit benchtop power supply that I love, but this is very, very handy. If you don't have one, once you've used one when you're troubleshooting, it's worth its weight in gold. So output voltages go in 0.1 volt increments all the way down to 1 volt and all the way up to a whopping 35 volts. So that is very, very handy. Let me just put that back down to 5 volts. That just feels... You can also set the max current too. Current limits are in, again, 0.1 of an amp all the way down from half an amp. I personally would prefer it to go a bit lower, down to a couple of hundred milliamps, or 0.2 of an amp would be kind of where I'd be more comfortable with, all the way up to a whopping 20 amps. Although where you'd use that, it's going to be some pretty heavy equipment if you're going to run that kind of power out of it. A little bit on USB information. There is that USB port at the front that we've already looked at. It is going to give you the information about the time it's been running, the capacity that's been taken, and all those different things too, and the voltage that's been pulled. Again, it looks like it is like a high performance USB port, so it's going to be handy for charging those bigger things. Back in the regular menu, then rolling the roller on the right hand side is going to take you through all the information about the batteries that's currently plugged in. However, if you press it, then it's going to let you change everything. Battery technology is going to let you choose from LiPo, high voltage, LAFE, lithium ion, LTO, nickel metal hydride, lead acid, and a UAV battery. And when you choose UAV battery, it also gives you the option to choose which battery you're going to go for. This gives you the option to charge DJI stuff with this if you really want to. Let's go back and set it for LiPo, because that's what most of us will use it on most of the time. Cells are auto up to 8S. If you want to set that, I just leave it for auto. Modes are charge, discharge, storage charge, and destroy. If I go into discharge and go into discharge mode, unfortunately in this version of the firmware there isn't the option to externally discharge the battery into the supplied DC battery. That's really handy if you want to kind of move charge around, or the end of the flight you've got a pack with a little bit left in it. You can put that back into the battery that's powering the charger and then pull it out into something that you're actually going to fly. A little bit disappointed that. Hopefully that's going to change. But if I go back here, we also have the ability to destroy. When it's set to destroy, you can set the end voltage for each of the individual cells. I actually would use destroy with caution. Make sure that you're never leaving charging or discharging LiPo battery unattended. And I destroy my batteries actually on the log burner in the back garden, and then something catastrophic happens, it's kind of in the right place to catch fire. Let's go back and put it back to charge. Then we have the end voltage. We can set that in 0.1 volt increments, go up to 4.25 volts, down to 4.05 volts if you want to. I know some people like the ability to partially charge batteries above storage so that they take a little bit longer to get up to full charge, but that's the range that's there by default. And then finally you have the charge current going down to 0.1 of an amp all the way up to a very chunky 20 amps. I'm going to leave that at a more likely value that I would use. And then you have the start function, and then as it's running, the interface is going to be exactly the same as all the other ToolkitRC that you've seen on the channel. Nothing really exciting or different there. So there's quite a few things that I like about this. It's smaller than I expected, and it seems to work just like all of the other ToolkitRC chargers that I've had in here. It kind of works fine, and when you're actually using it, it isn't too loud. Even when the fan's going, it isn't ridiculous. And it does mean you have that versatility, AC and DC, so it's going to work fine on the bench, but also out the field too. Only a couple of things to be aware of. There is only one port. Obviously, if you're going to do things like put batteries in series or parallel and stuff, then you know that's an option for you. However, personally, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would recommend, if you're going to be charging multiple batteries at once, get one of the chargers with multiple outputs, Only USB-C for the charging port. Now this is becoming more and more common for lots of things. Personally, I like a pretty standard USB port. That means I can plug everything in here. I wish they would provide cables when they do this to kind of change things around. I know these are high power outlets, I absolutely get that, but I now can't charge things like my DJI goggles, my GoPros and other things using this port unless I've got the right cable with me. And I would have also liked to have multiple ports on this. Yep, okay, give me the USB-C high power output, but give me a couple of standard ones too. There's so much stuff that needs charging, including things like your phone at the field. It's handy to have those additional ports. And at this point with ToolkitRC, it's almost getting to the point where there's too many of these things to choose from. They have absolutely loads and loads on the website. So maybe they'll put a little bit more effort into some kind of decision tree or AI so that you can actually choose what you want depending on maximum cell count, number of batteries, wattage, whether it's AC, DC or both. Because at the moment there's quite a lot of work looking through everything to find the one that fits what you need. But in summary, this seems to be a nice charger for those of you that really like 8S and below packs. It can be incredibly handy with all those additional things inside, where it's not only a charger, but it's also signal measurer, signal generator, resistance measurer, and also a bench power supply too. Thank you for watching my video. Check out the playlist, and adding Pedantry 60 to your search terms will help you find my content. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. You can support the time I spend here answering questions and helping others by using the links in the video description.